On June 18, 2020, auditors at one of the world's biggest accounting firms did something they had avoided for years. They refused to sign off on the accounts of Germany's most celebrated technology company. The reason was simple and staggering. 1.9 billion euros that was supposed to be sitting in bank accounts could not be found. Within days, the company was worthless, and its second-in-command had vanished into a story far stranger than fraud. This is the story of Wirecard, a company worth 24 billion euros, briefly more valuable than Deutsche Bank itself, that turned out to be built on money that never existed. But here is what most retellings miss. The truly disturbing part isn't that the billions were fake. It's that when honest journalists tried to expose it, the fraud didn't just deny them. The entire system turned around and attacked the people telling the truth. It started quietly in 1999 near Munich. Wirecard began as a payment processor, the invisible plumbing that moves money when you buy something online. For years it was small, obscure, unglamorous. Then, under a turtleneck-wearing chief executive obsessed with data, it began to grow at an astonishing rate, promising to be the company that would carry Europe into the digital future of money. By the late 2010s, Wirecard was a national champion. It joined the DAX, Germany's index of its 30 most important companies, replacing a giant traditional bank. Its stock soared. Politicians praised it. The German establishment saw Wirecard as proof that Europe could produce its own Silicon Valley giant. To doubt Wirecard was, in a sense, to doubt Germany itself. But there was always a mystery at the heart of the company. A huge share of Wirecard's profits supposedly came from something called third-party acquiring. Partner businesses in far-flung places like the Philippines, Dubai, and Singapore, handling payments Wirecard itself could not process directly. Almost no one could actually see these operations. The profits were real on paper. In the real world, they were a rumor. And sitting on top of it all was the crown jewel, 1.9 billion euros, supposedly held safely in trust accounts at 2 banks in the Philippines. This single number reassured everyone, investors, auditors, regulators. As long as that money was there, Wirecard was solid. The whole towering company balanced on the existence of that one enormous pile of cash. Then, in 2015, a journalist started asking questions. His name was Dan McCrum, a reporter at the Financial Times. Tipped off by short sellers who suspected something was deeply wrong, he began pulling at the threads of Wirecard's accounts. What he found didn't add up. The profits seemed to appear from nowhere. The Asian partners seemed strangely thin. Something, he became convinced, was very wrong. For years, McCrum and the Financial Times published story after story raising red flags. Whistleblowers came forward. Documents suggested profits were being invented. By any normal measure, this should have triggered alarm bells across Germany. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Something that turns this from a simple fraud story into a warning about power itself. Wirecard fought back, viciously. It publicly dismissed the reporting as lies and market manipulation. It sued the Financial Times. And behind the scenes, it went further still, hiring private investigators to follow, surveil, and dig into the lives of the journalists and the short sellers betting against it. The people trying to expose the fraud found themselves being watched. And then came the moment that should be studied in every finance class in the world. Germany's financial regulator, BaFin, looked at this situation, a celebrated company accused of fraud by respected journalists, and chose a side. It sided with Wirecard. It banned investors from betting against the stock, and it filed a criminal complaint, not against the company, but against the journalists. Think about how insane that is. The watchdog meant to catch fraud instead attacked the messengers who found it and protected the fraud from scrutiny. For a while it worked. The establishment closed ranks. McCrum was investigated. Wirecard stock held. It genuinely looked, for a time, as if the truth-tellers might be crushed and the lie might win. But arithmetic is patient. Under mounting pressure, Wirecard finally agreed to a special independent audit by the firm KPMG. Its job was simple: verify those enormous Asian profits and confirm the money was real. Month after month, the auditors asked for the evidence. And month after month, it did not come. In the spring of 2020, KPMG delivered its verdict. It could not confirm the profits were real. Now the final thread was pulled. Wirecard's own auditor, EY, went to the two Philippine banks and asked them directly to confirm the 1.9 billion euros in trust. The reply was devastating. Both banks said they had no such relationship with Wirecard and that the documents proving the accounts were forgeries. The crown jewel of the company was a fake. The money had never existed at all. The collapse was instant and total. On June 25, 2020, Wirecard filed for insolvency, the first company in the history of Germany's prestigious DAX index ever to go bankrupt. 24 billion euros of value evaporated. Investors were wiped out. The national champion, the pride of German technology, was revealed as one of the largest corporate frauds in European history. The chief executive was arrested. But the story's strangest figure was the chief operating officer, a charming, secretive Austrian who ran the company's mysterious Asian business. In the exact days that Wirecard imploded, he did not wait to be arrested. He slipped out of the country, boarded a private plane, and simply vanished. And this is where the fraud story ends, and something much darker begins. At first, everyone assumed he was just a fraudster on the run, hiding his stolen millions. Investigators traced his escape route, a flight to Belarus, and then onward, disappearing into Russia. But as the years passed, a far more unsettling picture emerged. The missing executive, it turned out, had not simply been a corrupt businessman. He had been living a secret second life for years. According to investigations across Europe, the fugitive had spent years moving in the shadowy world of intelligence. He reportedly boasted of secret connections, dealt in classified material, associated with mercenary networks, and cultivated ties to Russian security services. The man who had run the fake heart of a German fintech giant appeared to have been, all along, an asset of a foreign spy agency. The evidence kept surfacing. His name was linked to a network of agents operating across Europe on behalf of Russian intelligence. A spy ring later exposed and prosecuted, tasked with surveilling targets and gathering secrets. The financial fraud and the espionage were no longer two separate stories. They were beginning to look like two halves of the same one. And that raises the question that makes Wirecard truly chilling. A global payments company moves enormous sums of money quietly across borders all over the world. To an intelligence service, that is not just a business. That is a dream, a machine for moving money invisibly, funding operations, and hiding flows in plain sight. Was Wirecard only ever a fraud? Or was its financial plumbing useful to someone far more dangerous? We may never fully know, but it helps explain the deepest mystery of the whole affair. Why did the German establishment defend Wirecard so fiercely for so long and attack the journalists who were right? Was it just national pride and incompetence? Or did the fugitives' hidden connections buy the company a level of protection that ordinary fraudsters could only dream of? Today, the chief executive has faced trial, but the fugitive chief operating officer remains one of Europe's most wanted men, believed to be living, protected somewhere in Moscow, beyond the reach of Western justice. He took with him not just the secrets of a collapsed company, but possibly the secrets of a spy network. And he has never been caught. So here's what almost every version of this story gets wrong. Wirecard is remembered as an accounting scandal, a company that faked its profits. But the real lesson is darker. Every institution built to catch the fraud instead protected it. The auditors signed for years. The regulator attacked the journalists. The establishment defended the lie. The system didn't fail to see Wirecard. It chose again and again not to look. And the machinery that made it possible is everywhere. Opaque cross-border money flows. Profits booked in places no one can verify. Regulators too proud or too compromised to challenge a national champion. The line between financial fraud and state intelligence, once unthinkable, now looks thinner than ever. Wirecard wasn't just a scandal. It was a glimpse of how money, lies, and power can quietly become the same thing. So the next time a company is too celebrated to question, too important to doubt, and its critics are the ones being investigated, remember Wirecard. Remember that the loudest defenders of a lie are often the ones with the most to lose from the truth. If this file gripped you, this is the Greed Files, true stories of fortunes made, faked, and destroyed. Next time, the flower that once cost more than a house, and the market madness history has misremembered for 400 years. Subscribe and keep reading the files with us.